What is good, YouTube? It's your boy, Mr. Walker, in the cut with the formula. Doing it. All right, how y'all doing, people? Sorry about that. I'm bored. Let's get into our next formula with the coordinate plane, and it is the midpoint formula. Now, this does involve, just like the last one, two separate points. Okay, and so this says midpoint. Think that we're finding the middle for this. So the midpoint is a point on a line segment that is equidistant to the endpoints. Its x value is the average between the endpoints x values, and its y value is the average between the endpoints of its y values. So if we add a segment here like AB, our midpoint M would cut this line here directly in half, where this side AM is equal to this side MB. Okay. Now, what is the actual formula? The formula for this is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we're finding what's in the middle between these x values and what's in the middle between these y values. Really, this is as simple as looking at the values and then finding out what number is directly in the middle of them. So let's look at some examples. We got s at -4 and 0 and t at 6, -12. So I'm looking at my x values. What's in the middle between these two? What's in the middle between these two? So when we do that, we add the x values up, -4 plus 6, and then we divide that by 2. Same thing with our y values. We add them up, divide them by 2. Now, -4 plus 6 is going to be 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 12 plus 0, that's going to be -12. And divide that by 2, that'll be -6. So our midpoint is 1, -6. You can also think about this if you look at the number line between these two. These two are 10 spaces apart. So that means that I'm looking for the space that is 5 away from both of these. 5 away from 6 is 1. 5 away from -4 is +1. Just like how with 0 and 12, this is 12 spaces apart. I'm looking for the space that is 6 spaces in between, which would be -6. Now, when we look at this, your midpoint has to be in between these two. If you find a point that's not in between them, that means you didn't do it right. Okay. So next one we got to find the endpoint this time of AB. If A is 6, 1 and the midpoint is 5, -3. Now you can set this up with the formula, or you can actually go through and look at our 2 points. See, our x value here is 6, our x value here is 5. That means that since 5 is only one space below 6, that means that our other x value has to be one space below -5. Not -5, 5, which would be around 4. And then you look at your 2 points here. We got y at 1, and this y is at -3. So these are 4 spaces away. So you're looking for a space that's 4 spaces away from -3 on the other end, which would bring you to -4, I believe. But we could also set it up with the formula. We got these 3 points. I'm looking for what B is. So I know that 6 plus whatever that x value is for B divided by 2 is 5. I can go through and hit the algebra up with this by getting rid of the 2, by multiplying it to the 5, and then subtracting the 6 and getting 4, which is what I was saying earlier. This is one space away. 4 is one space away from 5, just like 6 is one space away from 5. Same thing over here. I got 1 plus whatever the second y is divided by 2 equals -3. I multiply both sides by 2. That's how I get -6. And then I subtract the 1 to the other side, making it -7. And this is 4 spaces away from -3, just like how 1 is 4 spaces away from -3. So again, the midpoint formula is actually a bit easier than the distance formula. when you do it. There's not that much math really involved. You could honestly count a lot of this stuff. Okay. So, with that in mind, we got some practice. Okay. So, we got three sets of things that we need to go through and find. This one has you going through and find the midpoint. These two are having you find the midpoint. This one is having you find the midpoint given the endpoint. So, pause the video, spin back, and I'm going to see you in a few. All right, folks. Hopefully, you went through and actually did some of this practice. So, let's talk about how we got this stuff. All right, first off, we got these 2 points here. We're finding the midpoint. I know if I look at the x values, I got -1 and 7. These are 8 spaces apart. So, half of 8 is 4. So, I'm looking for a spot that's 4 spaces in between. Just like how over here, I got my y over here at 3, my y over here at -1. These are 4 spaces apart, and half of 4 is 2. So I'm looking for something that's 2 spaces away from both of them. So I hit up my formula. I had those values. And if I divided them, I get, oops, sorry, didn't click the right place. 6 and 2, and that gives me 3 and 1. Since these two are 8 spaces away, 4 away from 7 will bring us to 3. 4 away from 1, also 3. And since these are 4 spaces away from each other, I'm looking for something that's 2 away, which means that 2 away from 3 would bring us to 1. 2 away from -1 would bring us to +1. So honestly, you can hit it with the formula or you can count it. A lot of this is just kind of simple logic with this, okay? Don't go too hard in the paint. Don't go too far in the woods, okay? So, with that being said, let's just check our midpoints for these two. Midpoint for A is 6, 1, because 6 is halfway between these two, because these two are 2 spaces away from each other. So half of that would be 1. So that's right in between. And these two, these are 18 spaces away from each other. So that means that half of that would be 9. So that's how I get that +1. All right. Next one that we got, our midpoint for QR on B would be 2.5 and -2.5. If you end up with a 0.5, that's perfectly fine. I don't think we're going to get into anything that has a repeating decimal, so you're just dividing in half. Nothing too crazy. 0.5 is the most you'll see with the decimal with this, okay? All right. Now our next one, we're trying to find the other endpoint given the midpoint. So look at your 2 points here. I see my endpoint and my midpoint both have the same y value. Since these both have the same y value, I can think that my other endpoint will have that same y value also. Then I look at my x values. I see I'm going from 5 to -3. That's going down 8. So I'm looking at something that's other, well, not other. So I'm looking at an x value that's 8 spaces away from -3. That gives us -11 and 5. So again, you can kind of just see how this is going to flow and bring us to our next point. All right. So our next one, I'm going from 0 to 3. That's 3 spaces away. That means that my other endpoint is 3 spaces away. 3 spaces away from 3 is 6. Now, from my endpoint to my midpoint's y, these are 7 spaces away. 7 spaces away from 1 has to mean that we're going down to the negative. So 7 spaces away would I think be -6. So let's see if I'm right. We got 6, -6. Boom goes the dynamite. Your boy is the world champion of the mathematics. All right, people. Make sure you get this put up in your book, and I might catch you later, alligator. See ya.